Let me welcome all of you to How Do I Bring My New Product to Market? My name is Linda Zangrilli. I'm the current chapter chair for SCORE Bucks County. And this presentation is going to be a really informative one that many of our clients ask us in our mentoring sessions. So we're excited to bring this to you today. And actually, the gentleman who is going to present it is one of our SCORE members. So that's always a good thing to have one of your own share his expertise. Before we begin, I'd just like to tell you a few things. Housekeeping wise, the session is being recorded. Everyone who registered will get a copy of the recording as well as a copy of the slides. So you don't have to take copious notes. You will get everything after the event. If you have questions as we go along, please put them in the Q&A and we will address all questions at the end of the session. Please refrain from advertising your own business in the chat. We would appreciate that. So just a couple of words about SCORE, who we are, what we do. Many people get registration forms from us and they're not quite sure what the organization's all about. SCORE is a national nonprofit organization. There are some 10 to 13,000 members all over the country, and they are all volunteers. And there's some 350 chapters as well. Here in Bucks County, we cover the entire county as well as Eastern Montgomery County. And SCORE has a very simple mission, and that is to help small business start, grow, and prosper. We're a resource partner of the Small Business Administration and have many resources at our beck and call, really, through the national organization as well as our own. So if you're a small business owner and you need some help, either in this particular topic or in any topic, maybe you have an idea for a business and you're not quite sure what to do or how to do it or how to bring it to fruition. We're here to help. We're going to put this in the chat as well. Our website for Bucks County is buckscounty.score.org. If you go into our website and you need a mentor, all you have to do is click that button that says, I need a mentor, and we will take it from there. We will assign someone to you who can help you through your journey. So I hope that you will take advantage of this. Here in Bucks County, we have about 70 people who volunteer their time, and Robert is one of them, to help people like you. They come from all walks of life. Some are working, some are retired, some have had their own business, some have come out of corporate life, but they have skill sets in all of the business disciplines necessary to run a small business. So I would encourage you, if you need help at all, there's no judgment, everything's confidential. We don't share your ideas with anyone. And you can take as many sessions or as few as you so choose. So it's a pretty good deal, and it's free. That's the best. The other way that we help the small business community is through events like we're going to show you today. Thanks to COVID, we are all virtual. We do this just about every Tuesday at the same time, and we present different topics. So we have a wealth of information on our website. We have a YouTube channel where you can revisit some of these topics. So I would encourage you to take advantage of the resources that this organization has to offer you. Okay, that is my pitch for today. So I can now turn it over to the gentleman who puts all this together for us. He's the seminar chair of SCORE Bucks County, and his name is Ed Torello. Ed?
Thank you very much, Linda, and thank you all for clicking in. I think you're going to find this a very interesting presentation. We happen to have, as Linda said, one of our own SCORE mentors, Robert Catalano, and he's the Chief Innovation Officer and co-founder of the Spearhead Group, which I believe is right here in Yardley. Robert brings more than 25 years of experience in product and physical brand enhancement development with a focus on delivering the best and most innovative solutions the market can supply. In his current role, he goes basically around the globe helping different companies, clients, suppliers, etc., get there with an eye towards marketing their innovation and getting their product to market. I'm going to turn this over to Robert now so that he can begin. Robert?
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Linda. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I still have to show my introduction page, Ed, because, you know, it's at least a picture of me when I was younger. So hopefully people get a kick out of that. But I've been doing this for over 30 years and put, thousands of products out into the market, dealing with a lot of different commodities, including plastics, glass, ceramics, wood, electronics, etc. So I actually really enjoy doing this. So I'm looking forward to giving as much information as I can in a short period of time, which, as you guys can imagine, is not always the easiest thing to do. I just want to congratulate you guys if you came up with a new idea. I'm sure you're really excited. It is very nerve-wracking. I think what I find is most entrepreneurs and inventors don't actually even know where to start, except for the exciting moment at the kitchen table or in their garage when they've made a prototype or whatever they've done. I just like to say that, I know every product is unique, but in my approach here, I'm going to try to very, very general overview of how to bring your product to life. Now, I'm probably going to miss a few things here and there. That's where the questions at the end of the session will be very helpful. But I would just say that the most important thing at this moment is to, with all your excitement and passion, is just to hit the pause button for a minute and plan. So, because this is where most people get it wrong, is at the start when they're very, very excited. They end up in the wrong direction. And it's sad to see that. So I hopefully we can prevent that with some general overview. I've tried to take a very complicated thing, not knowing what your invention is or what your idea might be or what your product might be, and just try to break it down into 5 very basic steps. So is your idea truly original? Protecting your idea, ensuring it's production feasible, getting engineering help, and researching manufacturers. Now, again, this is really, really simplistic view of a complicated product. At the end, there'll be question and answer time, so you can get more specific then if you'd like. But one thing I'll say a lot is it depends. So unless I know exactly what's the specific idea is, most of it's going to be it depends, and I'll give my best answers. So let's get started. So is your idea truly original? That's the first step. The excitement of coming up with an idea, I've had it many, many times. But I always say, think of the wheel. Most people are not thinking of reinventing the wheel, but believe it or not, there's a lot of work being done on that. So many times I've gotten disappointed myself by coming up with a really cool idea and then realizing it already exists. So I would say definitely at the beginning, the pausing part is so important before you do any work, before you start running out and telling all your friends you got this great idea. You're going to save a lot of time and money if you do this next step. This first step is Google. Google research. It sounds simple, but it doesn't cost any money. It's the easiest way. I do it all the time. I've been in the industry for 30 years and inventing things. The first thing I do is do a Google search of keywords. And I would say most of the time, sadly, sometimes I could say almost 90% of the time, if I thought of it, someone else probably thought of it. There's a lot of good ideas out there already. I wouldn't say don't get I would say don't get disappointed, but you will get disappointed. But the main thing is if it does already exist, you can be thankful that you didn't spend all the time and money thinking you got a great original idea when someone already has it. So just a very simple Google keyword search. I wouldn't go run running around telling people your idea and anything yet until you maybe your significant other. But other than that, I would do a Google search. You might find really quickly that your idea is not new. I show tires here because just doing a simple Google search is pretty interesting, the amount of work that's being done on improving on the tire. So people say don't reinvent the wheel, but sometimes improving on something is also an invention. So don't get disappointed if you see wheels in this example. If you have a new way to make a wheel, then maybe you got something there. The second step is protect your idea. Now, I would say part of that is going to a patent attorney. And the first thing a patent attorney would do is do a patent search. So like Google, this is more like a more advanced Google of your idea. The patent attorney will always do a patent search to see if they get any hits on something that's already existing. So what you want to avoid is reinventing the wheel in this case. So if someone already has the idea and already is patented it, again, you're saving yourself time of not wasting any more money. I would say if your idea is already patented, there's other things that you can do, which I'll touch into it a little bit. Sometimes there's dormant patents, meaning that someone invented it, but they never went to market with it. So there's possibilities there. If you're really passionate about the idea, someone else has the patent, there's ways where you could reach out to them and see if they're willing to give you, work out an agreement with your attorney to see if you can do some sort of royalty or produce it for them with some sort of royalty. So don't get disappointed if you find someone else has already done it. If it's dormant, there might be an opportunity for you to work with them. I would say though, if you find that your idea is really unique and really original, is everything that you wanted it to be, and your patent attorney says you can patent this, then that's a choice you can make. And I say possibly here because you may or may not want to spend the money. So let me tell you that it'll take months to get a provisional patent going. The patent office is very diligent. The U.S. Patent Office is very diligent and very thorough, meaning that you run into the bureaucracy of that, and it can take months to years and cost you money. So I would say really seriously think about if you want to do that. If you do, that's certainly an option for you. I would work closely with a patent attorney to do that. The other thing I would say, that I say to some friends of mine when they come to me with ideas, I say sometimes it's better to be first in the market than to worry about waiting a year to patent something. So it depends on your mental thought process. Do you want to patent and protect it for forever? Or do you want to be first in the market? Maybe someone knocks you off, but you at least are first in the market. There's different strategies to that. And certainly one of your SCORE mentors can help you when you reach that stage. Step 3 is make sure your idea is feasible. There's a difference between possible, difficult, and impossible, as you can imagine. I've seen a lot of designs and ideas that actually defy physics. So you want to make sure that your idea actually is realistic, that actually can be made, that there's some existing technology. If you don't have, if it's that, again, I'm trying to do a very general presentation on this, but if you have some brand new technology that currently is not production feasible, but you have the technology to make it production feasible, that's a different scenario. And again, it all depends, as I mentioned at the beginning. The main thing is to make sure that it's production feasible, that you can mass produce it. So I'm assuming that you want to make money with your idea. So the only way you can make money is by selling it, selling as many items as you can most of the time. And if you can't mass produce it and you can only make 2 or 3 of them, it might not be a good business plan, right? Again, a SCORE mentor can certainly help you with that. But let me tell you a quick way to know how to do this, right? So we're all consumers, and the retail, the stores are a manifestation of all the things that are production feasible. I do this all the time. When I come up with an idea, I go out to the retail stores and I pick it up and I look at things. Now, don't think that you have to, if you came up with the idea of a tire, you have to go necessarily looking at other tires. I've actually gotten a lot of insight into looking at toothbrushes. They're very, for example, they're very unique in their production of how they do different materials, rubber and hard plastics and fibers and everything into one piece. That gives me a sense of what's production feasible. You don't have to be an engineer to do this step. You're simply looking at what's out in the market that might be similar in construction or in shape to what I am applying to my idea. It's actually a really, really low cost approach to seeing what is production feasible. And the cool thing about that is once you see, I don't know, maybe it's a hinge, maybe it's the way something shines, maybe it's the way a plastic piece is made, or materials are put together, you can align that with your idea and say, it is feasible. There's production processes out there that actually fit my idea. Very rarely will I go out to look at retail materials and items and I don't learn something new about how something can be constructed. And there's always new ideas out there. So I would definitely make sure that that is a part of this step of looking at whether something is production feasible or not. I would do this definitely before you go any further, to make sure that you have a good reference of what is actually possible. If something is not production feasible, then definitely you have to hit the pause button. I would say that that's something that you have to review if it's even something you want to pursue. Step 5 is a fun part. Unless you're an engineer yourself, and again, I'm trying to be very generic here, trying to make assumptions that maybe you're not engineers yourselves, but if you are, then you can fill in this step perhaps yourself. But otherwise, I would say you need to get some engineering help, right? And engineering consultants are available in all different commodities. They exist. I've used them for different commodities, although I've engineered some of my own specs. Very oftentimes, if you're getting into multiple materials going together and other kind of technical parts, you're going to need an engineer to help you with what's can be engineered to be production feasible. And the reason you want to do this is you are going to go to a manufacturer next step, okay? So the only way you can go to a manufacturer and check if what the cost of goods are and the feasibility, et cetera, is to have the specs nailed down. This can go as far as making prototypes. There are people that can make prototypes. Some people, if you're skilled enough, maybe you can make your own prototypes with the engineer. But this is a step that you really need to do. I can't stress it enough how important it is. It's like junk in, junk out, okay? So this is where you are really defining exactly what you want to make before you go out to the next step of step 6 of speaking with a manufacturer. I've seen a lot of failures in this spot where people will not do this thoroughly. And then when they go out to manufacturers, they're very unhappy and they waste a lot of time and money. So this part, again, I can't stress enough, getting the specs right of what you're trying to do is key. Otherwise, you leave the manufacturers up to their own guesses of what you want. And again, that'll just waste a lot of time. The way I would do this, the next step is to go out to manufacturers to get actual quotes and review the project as a whole. Now, I mentioned here that you should use an NDA, which if no one's familiar with that, is a non-disclosure agreement. Some might have heard of it as a mutual non-disclosure agreement as well. Basically, when you go out to manufacturers, I would say, in fact, when you speak to the engineer, make sure that they sign a basic non-disclosure agreement. There's templates available out there, and certainly your SCORE mentors can advise you on that. You don't need this for SCORE mentors, just want to highlight that. We already have NDAs with everybody, that's assumed. But as far as working with manufacturers, this is going to be critical. And you want to make sure that manufacturers are reputable. This is before you send out your specs, okay? How do you know they're reputable? I'll tell you some basic hints. They have a website. Believe it or not, there's some manufacturers out there, or they say they're manufacturers, they don't actually have websites. They have a history of items. They have samples that you could request, maybe of previous projects that they've done, so you can see the quality. They have certifications, maybe as ISO, which are production certifications. Basically, think about it if you were to invite someone to your home to paint your house, or paint inside your house. You would want to get references, right? So basically this checking the credentials, the websites, the history of items, samples of quality, certifications is something that is important before you start sending these things out. There's sadly, a lot of scammers out there that say they're manufacturers, but they're not. And once you start asking for credentials, they start to disappear. So definitely make sure you do that. You don't have to worry about visiting the manufacturers at this time. Just getting the initial information is what you really want. And I would say from a reputable manufacturer perspective, they will sign an NDA if they're reputable. If they refuse to sign your NDA, then there's a sign that you don't want to work with them. There's manufacturers all around the world. And as Ed mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, I work globally. There are a lot of manufacturers still within the US, but unfortunately, most of them will be overseas. And I can give you some tricks in the question and answer stage, maybe to give you some ideas of how to approach that. But again, everything depends on what category and what product area you're looking for. After you go out to the manufacturers, with your idea, right? So you're sending the specs, and you'll send the details of what you want them to look at. I would say go out to 3, at least. 3 is a good number. It's a proven method in any procurement model. 2 is okay. 1 is a no-no. Never just go to 1, because you're going to believe everything they say. What you really need to do is have checks and balances with other manufacturers, and 3 is really the best way to go. From there, you'll get the cost of goods. In other words, what is the cost to make that item? You'll have to be careful if you're working with overseas, because you still have to get the item to the United States, if that's where your market is. And you'll have to work out logistics, duties, et cetera. There are people that can help you with that. And we can go into that if people have questions. You'll get initial tooling costs, which tooling is a mold. They oftentimes use the words tooling, and setup costs. So those are one-time costs, right? So they're not your normal cost of goods. They're your one-time setup costs, your initial investment. After that, the cost of goods would be your product for your product. You'll get lead times. How long does it take to do tooling? How long does it take to do prototype samples? What the cost of those are, and what's the cost of production? If this is an ongoing thing, which you would imagine and would hope that it would be, because you're selling on a regular basis, then you get into a lot of inventory planning, et cetera, which I'm not going to go into here, but that is things that you can work through with the manufacturer. Quality commitments. They should be able to articulate to you how they do their quality control, or whatever you want to dictate. For example, you say, I don't want any scratches on the wood. For example, they'll either tell you to get lost or they'll agree. And those are things that you need to hash out in this 3 benchmark process. I always tell people that cheaper doesn't always mean better. I think we all know when we get a product and it's cheaply made, we don't want to buy it again. Depending on, again, I'm using the word depends. It depends on what your approach is. If you're doing, I don't know, new paper cups, then maybe you're not worried about it being a low cost and cheaper because it's going to be disposed of. If you're doing something that's more of a higher end retail value, you absolutely want to make sure that the quality is built in. And that is a very big part, the quality on the price. So someone might come with a really cheap price, but their quality reflects that. Someone might come with a much higher price, but again, their quality reflects that. So you have to figure out where you want to be in that spectrum. I would definitely use your engineer to help you review these offers if you're, again, not technical yourself, to make sure that you're clear. If possible, and most of the times it is, get samples made of the, say you get 3 quotes and you like at least 2 of them. One might fall out of the price for quality or something like this. Then you want to get some samples made. These are investment points and things that you have to make a decision. If a mold needs to be put together or setup costs, it might be more expensive to get the first sample. But again, these are things that you want to consider as you look at your item, because you don't want to do anything further unless you get a sample. Basically, at this point, you have everything you need to analyze and how to move forward. So you know that you could manufacture the product. You know that it's what the costs are, you know, the lead times are. You're basically at the point where you can actually put together a business plan. Now, your SCORE mentors would help you with that part, so I'm not going to get into how to do a business plan. But I would say that there are 2 options you should always consider, right? A lot of people think that when they come up with the idea, they have to produce it themselves. So you can, when I say yourself, unless you're a manufacturer yourself, you would be subcontracting it. But manufacturing, being responsible for the manufacturing process, has a lot of risks involved. Everything from quality control to liabilities related to the product. If you were to find an interested party that wants to license your idea, and again, the only way you can license an idea is if you have a patent. So if it's just an idea, very likely someone else will knock it off pretty quick if it's not licensed. But if you license the idea to an interested party, they would be responsible for the production and the manufacturing process. And you would simply, after the agreement's set, you would simply collect royalties. So that's obviously something I always recommend to friends when they come forward and say they have a great idea. You do the process that I suggested, those 4 steps and 5 steps, but you still have a choice. At this point, you have the cost of goods, you have all the parameters around it, but you don't need to be the one that manufactured it. If you don't want to be, you can choose another route, and an attorney can help you with that. From there, your SCORE mentors can help you with the next steps. And I gotta say, that's the fun part. Once you already know that it's feasible, you already know the cost, your lead times, everything, then the rest is just a bundle of choices that I believe is, in my opinion, is the fun part. So in summary, confirm your idea is original. Very, very important. I know everyone gets excited at the beginning, but the first thing you want to do is make sure that it is actually original. Protect. That doesn't always mean that you have to patent things. Sometimes NDAs keeping it quiet, and being first to market is still an option. But just be careful who you share your ideas with. There's a lot of people that will run with them. Confirm your idea is feasible. Again, that is simply looking through retail and retailers is kind of a fun journey to check out what other people and how other things are made. Get engineering help. Again, unless you're an engineer yourself, it's very important to have someone that's technical on your side. And then researching the manufacturers, which again, these 5 steps are pretty high level, big bucket answer for a much bigger ocean of questions I'm sure people might have. So with that, I will turn it over to anyone that has questions.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Just start off. So I have a great idea. I've gone through some engineering help, and I've also talked to a patent attorney. And now all of a sudden, I'm talking to manufacturers. As you mentioned, most of the manufacturers are overseas, and most of them appear to be in China. How do I contact these people? How do I talk to these people? Do I use an intermediary? Do I use somebody like you? I mean, how do I do that? I mean, especially if they don't speak English, it's a little tough too.
Yep. Great question. And thank you. There are massive advances in sourcing, because what you're talking about is actually sourcing. And there's a very simple website called Alibaba.com. And when I started in the industry years ago, they used to do catalogs. Now it's all on the internet. Alibaba.com is basically, it would be similar to the world's largest Amazon, I suppose. You go on there and you search keywords and you find manufacturers that will come up in those categories. The biggest part is making sure that they're real, because the barrier to put yourself on Alibaba is very low. They've gotten much better at doing criteria checks and validations. Alibaba has taken that on themselves. But you still want to do your due diligence as far as making sure that they have some basic things, websites to credentials to getting samples. But from a global perspective, I do find that to be the lowest cost, easiest entry point to find a factory. Now, the other way is to go to companies that are similar to someone like us in the category that you want. But I find that for me anyhow, I find not involving what I would call brokers at the beginning stages particularly is better, because you're just entering a new party into the mix. You really want to deal directly with manufacturers. So my recommendation would be of one of the biggest ones is Alibaba.com.
Okay, so once I've done that and I've decided on a manufacturer, then there's an awful lot of legal situations to handle. I mean, contracts, them, providing what they say. I'm here, they're there. Who watches them? How do I make sure that they're doing what they said they're going to do?
Right. These are with at the beginning stages of the arrangement with the manufacturer. You want to spell out what your requirements are. That's why, again, first off, the specifications are very, very important. So you can continue with that if you do. Essentially, your contract for most of these are purchase orders, which would include cost of goods, lead times, and quality commitments and requirements. You do have the option, of course. Currently now with COVID, it's not an option, but you could visit the facilities. You could also hire third-party quality control providers. And those are technical people that actually are, they're located all around the world. Third-party certified quality control companies. There's several I can think of, but each one is special in a particular commodity. And I would definitely recommend that you get a third-party quality control on-site group that will actually watch the goods for you. So they could do during production inspections, they can do final random inspections, they can inspect containers as they come in. They can also do factory audits, which are full factory audits. When you reach that stage and you say, I really want to work with this manufacturer, you would get a factory audit done that would show things from ethical trading and marketplace, that they're reputable in that sense. So if they physically audit and go through the facility, make sure that they're everything down to where the fire signatures are and their exit plans for fires and their payment history to employees are all covered with an audit.
Okay. So here's a question. If you're waiting on a patent approval, can you still sell the product in the meantime?
Yes, you can. And I do that oftentimes. So if you get a provisional patent application started, you can have on your products, again, confirm this with your attorneys at the time that it's appropriate. And you could put patent pending on your items. Now, patent pending just tells the market that, hey, I'm in the process of getting a patent. Doesn't mean you're going to get the patent, but it does mean you're in the process of it. And it's a deterrent for people to try to copy it.
Okay. Does the process of obtaining a trademark require hiring a lawyer? Is the process of applying, researching, and filing for a trademark difficult? And what are the steps involved? And how much does it cost to do the work myself without hiring a lawyer? Okay.
So this is one of those areas where I would say it depends, right? But just so we're clear, trademark would protect a logo, a brand logo. I think what the question is probably related to a patent. I don't know of any way to do it myself, nor would I suggest that anyone should do their own patent application. It doesn't mean you couldn't research it. Maybe there's a YouTube video that could show you how to do it. But I would rely on an attorney that's actually experienced in this, because doing a patent application, a provisional patent application, requires a lot of legal language. And if you're going up against the federal government trying to do a review of your patent, they'll reject it on the face of it if it's written in a poor manner, right? You want an attorney to help you write it down in a clear, concise way. They also will help with making sure a patent application also has diagrams which are specific to patent applications. You don't want to be doing that yourself. I would highly recommend that you have an attorney do that for you.
I know in the Philadelphia area, there are several patent attorneys. I've had a SCORE client who needed one, and he went to several and picked one in particular, but they are available right here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. And if you get lucky, like I have a patent attorney that actually is a litigator as well of patents. Litigators are really great for helping writing patents because they see the other side of how someone could litigate it. The other thing is my patent attorney is actually an engineer himself. So that actually is very helpful. So I would say, like when you're looking at manufacturers, make sure you pick the patent attorney that reflects maybe the space that you want. If you have, I don't know, a textile invention, it would be good to have a patent attorney that maybe has worked in that commodity before. So that just a little tip on how you pick that. And well, did I answer all the questions?
No, we have another one here. Is there any?
Oh, no, sorry, on
those,
that
yes.
one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I believe you did.
Okay.
Basically, doing it without a lawyer is probably not a good idea.
Yeah, and how much does it cost was the other
Yeah.
part I just remembered. So there's an old saying, what's the length of a string? I don't know the answer to how much it will cost. It depends on the complexity of the item. But I would say, you could probably start the patent process for a few $1,000s. So it's not that steep in that sense. But what happens is the hours start to build up as the patent office pushes back and says, we think that this is close to another patent or something like that is usually what they're going back and forth on. You'll need your patent attorney to help you word it maybe a little bit differently and clarify with the patent inspector. So you got to really be careful on watching the hours they could build up.
Okay, this one, is there any time limits on the validity of, I guess, a provisional patent?
There is. I forget what it is exactly, so I think it's something you check with the attorney, but there is. There's a point where you will have, I think it's a year from when you get the provisional patent applied. Your lawyer will keep you posted on that. That will be part of their requirement with you. They'll get a letter from the patent office saying it's time for you to basically put up or shut up. If your patent is free and clear and from a provisional protection, the next step is patenting it, which is first it's out in the market for a certain amount of time for people basically to object when they see I got the idea first. I just so the it's a matter of time to when you have the pending patent pending to when you actually can get a patent. It's generally about a year would be roughly.
Okay, here's one that's very interesting. I'm curious for your answer. I am already producing dry cake mixes. People seem to like them and are asking me to buy them. How do I protect the cake recipe? Also, I am applying for my logo trademark. They say it takes months to get it. This is another interesting part. Can I go ahead and write the circle R next to my logo or business name? Is there patent pending? Thank you. That part doesn't make sense to me.
So let me dissect that a little bit. So
Yeah.
let me start with the trademark of a brand. So that's a different topic, and we could probably do a presentation just on that. You cannot just put a registered R next to something. It's the same way as if you were to put patent pending on something. What law you're breaking, I don't know. I think you need to ask an attorney that, but it's not something you're supposed to do. Let's put it that way. If you have a brand logo that you want to trademark, you have to have usage of it for a certain amount of time and prove that you're using it. And an attorney will advise you of that. So, but I would say I wouldn't recommend anyone puts a fake R or a TM next to anything. It does start, just so you know, it starts with a TM. Sometimes you see TM next to things, and then sometimes you see an R. It starts with a TM, trademarked, which means it's in its first stage is almost like a provisional patent. And then later on, after you show usage of it, it'll become an R. But it doesn't mean that you can't use your logo. I've branded some things and put my logo out, but getting a kind of a provisional trademark is really quick and not that expensive. So if you have a brand logo that you want to protect, I'd get on it with an attorney right away. There's not a big barrier to that. As far as patenting a recipe, that's new to me. I would absolutely speak with an attorney to how to do that. I've never done that before myself. Of course, Coca-Cola and Pepsi and others, they protect their recipe. So I could imagine that it's no different than any other patenting. Now, there's different patents. There's utility patents and there's design patents and there's other maybe there's something related to recipes.
So here's a sort of an unfair question, but I'm just curious to see how you can wrap it together. So I come into your office and I say, I have this phenomenal idea to make this particular gear. Okay, nobody else has one like it. And I researched the market, like you said. So I know that that's, as far as I can tell, correct. So now I want to know, sort of preliminarily, how much it would cost me to take it from your hands to talk to a manufacturer, to get a patent, to do all those things, and to bring it to market. I mean, are we talking about $25,000, $50,000, $100,000?
You mean to just research the answers to those questions?
Well, yeah, or actually, no, to physically do it. So you've taken products from your mind,
Yeah,
to the manufacturer, to the counter at the store.
Yep.
So I've come in with the same thing. What would it kind of cost me to do all that? It can't be cheap.
No, well, again, I'm going to use the word depends, okay? Because
Right.
it's really going to depend on the item. So if you were coming into me with a specific thing like a metal gear,
Right.
I know right away that metal requires a fairly costly tooling, a mold to make, right? So right off the bat, I know that is, I don't know, it could be depending, you could be talking tens of thousands of dollars to invest in a mold for a metal gear, for example, right? Your barrier cost-wise is mainly the tooling costs and the sampling costs to get it first started, right? It's again, it depends on the specific thing, Ed, and your question is a good one. I could probably go through each commodity. So our gear, I would say, would probably cost around $10,000 to get a mold invested in and to run some samples before you go out to the market. Then the rest is if the manufacturer has any sort of setup costs that they want to hit you with. But most manufacturers are pretty lenient on setup costs if they see value in, because they obviously want to sell it to you, right? Usually it's the actual cost of, say, tooling a new mold. But there are other commodities. There's other commodities that you don't have those barriers. So that's why it depends. There might be, I don't know, maybe someone came up with a new wood box or that something made of wood that's a little more hand assembled that doesn't require a tool, a mold. Those things could be, I mean, you could spend $50 on getting a manufacturer to make you a sample. So it depends on the commodity itself. Unfortunately or fortunately, I have a list of all those lead times and costs of molds and everything in my head, depending on the commodity.
Right. Because I was trying to figure out if I had something intricate that required metal, a mold, and all that, at the end of the day, to get it from start to finish, from my mind to the counter at the store, it could be $40,000 or $50,000.
It could, yeah. I think those are, I think those are, you should consider, these are things you have to think about when I mentioned before, do you want to move forward with a actual production yourself? Or is it good enough to prove out that it's production feasible and then license it out to somebody else?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another question. Is there any help available for the cost of hiring the patent attorney? I guess they mean maybe a grant or something like that. I don't think there is, but.
No, but I've seen situations where someone has a great idea, but they don't have the finances to do it. Again, Score Mentors can help with this, but teaming up or partnering with someone that maybe has the money. If you could sell your idea to some private investor or a friend's family, maybe at the starting points, to see, now that once you have all the idea of costs and lead times and tooling costs and everything in your hand after you do the benchmarking, then you can have a serious sit down with somebody and say, hey, look, I got this great idea. Here's how much it costs. Are you willing to help me out? But I don't know any grants or anything and
Right.
related to that.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard either. Here's one that's kind of interesting. It's a couple of parts. What characteristics of products require purchasing liability insurance? And how to determine that the product does not need liability insurance? And how
Yeah.
much does an entrepreneur have to pay for liability insurance on a new product?
Right.
So,
So again, it depends, right? But I'll offer some general advice on it. If you're putting a product out in the market, you're always going to need liability insurance. There's no way around it. You want to protect yourself personally, even if you. So if you are selling it to somebody else, a distributor, for example, a wholesaler or something like this, you are still ultimately responsible. Think about it from if you drive on the highway and you see billboards for attorneys, did you fall down the stairs? Or did you think about falling down the stairs? We might be able to get you money. So if someone's suing for a product issue, product liability would be meaning someone got harmed or harmed something of their personal property. They're going to go after everybody they can. An attorney's going to go after everybody they can. So if you're putting out a product, I would recommend you get liability insurance. Now, there's my personal recommendation, again, without overstepping from an attorney's advice or insurance company's advice, I would say at least $1 million policy. And, they are not that expensive, but it depends on the commodity. If you were to do a plush toy, the liability could be much higher because of children versus, I don't know, a screwdriver. So the commodity is going to really dictate the level of liability. Also, one of the things that can help you is sort of like when you get car insurance. If you actually did safe driving courses, you can get a reduction in your insurance. Insurance company wants to also know that you have quality control processes or that you're subcontracting to someone that's reliable and it's traceability on products. So those things help you in your insurance premiums.
So I'm looking to manufacture my product overseas because I can't find anyone who's doing it here. So what countries do you think I should take a look at? Obviously, China does a lot of stuff, but there are an awful lot of other countries that are kind of up and coming, like Vietnam and places like that. Where have you found the most success in having your stuff manufactured?
China by far is the most dominant, as you mentioned, and it continues to be, even with punitive duties of importation taxes and so forth. They still end up to be the most reliable in the sense of where they've come from. But I think the area I'm looking at as an up and coming development is India. India is really, there's a lot of benefits because we don't have any sort of geopolitical stress with India. And the infrastructure within India has really, within the decade, has really risen to compare with China. And a website like Alibaba.com that I had mentioned earlier will also pick up places like India. Vietnam and other areas there's been a lot of places where people have gone to out of a knee-jerk reaction to get out of China. But really a lot of those places, the infrastructure and geopolitical aspects of it are not very secure. You want to make sure if you pick a country, you have that the country has good relations with the US, if that's your market, because you don't want to be in a risky situation. And you might want to do your homework on the politics of that country to make sure that you're not in a volatile area. But India is a very stable space, and I would say that they're really rivals to China.
So you've got your product manufactured in either one of those two countries, and now you've got the logistics problem of getting it into the United States and then to your warehouse, let's say.
Yes.
So I know there are logistics companies out there, but what do I do? Do I contact one? Do I talk to the manufacturer about who he uses, or how do I go about that? It's not as easy as it sounds.
No, but it doesn't have to be complicated either, right? So the first thing I would do is probably the easiest for figuring out your cost of goods exercise, right? Is to ask the manufacturer to, it's called an INCO term, INCO term. It's basically the definition of where you're taking title of the goods, right? So I would ask the manufacturer to offer you pricing on Incoterms delivered to the US. That gives you the first part of the logistics cost. Doesn't mean you're going to use them for that, but you could. It's easier if the manufacturer is under control of it. They pack in, they control it. The other way to do it is a customs broker, logistics broker, and there's many, many of them. Even if the manufacturer sells it to you delivered to the US, you still have to pay taxes. Everything, you know, when they say death and taxes are things you can't avoid, everything you import will have some sort of what's called a harmonized tariff number. It's without going too complex, it's a massive categorizing of every commodity you can imagine under the sun. So a harmonized tariff schedule will actually be something that the broker, customs broker, can help you mitigate and figure out what is your tax liability. When I say tax, it's called duty, but it's actually a tax for importation. And a customs broker would be able to help you with that. And there are many, many customs brokers out there. I get called by them constantly. So I know there's plenty of them to reach out to.
All right. Here's an interesting question. When you give an NDA, or I guess sign one, to engineers in manufacturing, to manufacturers to sign, does the legal liability also fall upon their employees? What's preventing an assembly line employee from disclosing your product?
So
I think it covers everyone, but
yeah, so legally it would include someone signing on behalf of the company. So if you're an engineer and you're working independently, your name is going to be very important on that document. If you're working for an engineering company, then the person signing it on behalf of the company, it means that the whole company that is then under the NDA. Again, an attorney will help make sure that you get an NDA. There's a lot of templates out there too that are fairly straightforward. But it will cover everyone involved with that. The one thing I'll say though is that the world is a rough place, right? So one thing about having an NDA or even having a patent means that you now have to keep an watchful eye out, right? For violations. Violations of a patent or an NDA can happen, and you have to be the one to put a stop to it. And again, an attorney can help with cease desist letters, that kind of stuff, which are unfortunately part of the process of protecting your it's like protecting your yard. You're going to have to run out and yell at the kids every once in a while if you want them off your grass. So if you're not actively vigilant, then people could violate. You want to be vigilant for sure.
right. So this is interesting here. So once you get the products into the U.S. warehouse, how do you bring it to how do you get big retailers like Walmart and Target to carry your product? I mean, that's a whole nother game, but.
That's a whole nother conversation. I think one of the things I would highly recommend is make sure you have a buyer before you produce your goods. If it's business to business, that's a little bit easier than business to consumer. Okay. So business to business, you want to have a purchase order from that business before you start producing your goods. And that is the first thing. I would say, do not load yourself. And I've done this before. I've jumped ahead thinking, I'm going to sell all these things and end up in a warehouse in the US. And then, I don't have buyers. So, and obviously you're sitting on all that inventory and that's just wasted money for you. So I would say, make sure you have buyers first. So B2B, business to business, make sure you have a purchase order in your hand before you produce. Business to consumer is a different animal altogether. And that would require doing things like focus groups and test markets and things that a savvy marketer can help you with.
Okay. Right. So basically, what you're saying is when you get started, make sure you have an attorney, an accountant, and then within the attorney thing, probably a patent attorney and a trademark attorney. So you've got a lot of stuff to consider in order to protect yourself.
Or you could just go completely cowboy on it, and just be first to market. And I tell a lot of people sometimes, getting yourself tied up in paralysis by analysis, right? And you can actually move faster if you don't do all those steps. But just know that the risk is someone's probably going to knock you off. But sometimes being first in market is vital because people will remember, consumers will remember because you have more credibility than the others coming secondary.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, we've exhausted our questions. So have you anything to add to wrap up?
No, I would just say, again, I know it's a very exciting moment to have an idea. And my best advice would be just to pause and plan before you start buying the new car and thinking you're going to be a millionaire.
Right.
Yeah.
Put that Mercedes on hold.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And know that I'm actually a very optimistic person, but I've been through this enough times. Know that it is a roller coaster ride. I have never seen a quick launch without any sort of challenges. So.
Oh, sure. And if everything went smoothly, everything would happen.
Yeah, and everyone would do it. Yeah.
I'm just going to say thank you to everyone who's listening. I'm going to turn it back to our chapter chair, Linda. Linda?
Yep. Thank you so much. Thanks, Robert, for a very, very informative presentation, very practical, usable information for our clients. I would like to remind everyone that if you need a mentor, you can get a mentor through our website, buckscounty.score.org. And Robert is actually considered a subject matter expert for us. So if you get a mentor that maybe needs some help in this area, you have something that you want to bring to market, and it goes beyond the expertise of the mentor that you have, we can tap into Robert to get his expertise and help you out as well. So just know that help is there. I mean, I've had clients who have gone this route with the Alibaba, and to me, it was a new process. So I've kind of learned through their experience, but very, very well presented and very informative for somebody who thinks they're going to make $1 million tomorrow. Ain't happening, but it's feasible given the right set of circumstances. So we thank you once again. Thank you all for being with us. Next week's presentation is the IRS.
Yeah.
And what is the topic, Ed?
The topic is your business eligible for work opportunity tax credit?
Right.
The IRS is very informative, very interesting. And the only presenter that we ran out of time, but not questions. So,
but it was also the week before tax time, which
that's true. We have to give them that. And in September, we have one, careers in franchising. Is that right for you? And then we also have one towards the end of the month on what is your shtick, personal branding, online and offline. So we have quite a variety of topics coming up in the next month and a quarter. So thank you again for listening, Linda.
All right. Thank you all. Thanks, Robert. And we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.